Hello, welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Pride and Prejudice. Chapter 15, A Letter of Explanation. Elizabeth woke the next morning to the same thoughts and puzzlement. It was impossible to think of anything else. She decided to take a walk in her favorite park, hoping to be alone with her thoughts. After 2 or 3 times along the lane, she was tempted to stop at the gates, and she caught a glimpse of a gentleman in the grove. But the person was near enough to see her, and stepping forward eagerly was calling her name. It was Mr. Darcy. He held out a letter, which she immediately took. With a great look of seriousness, he says, "I have been walking in the hope of meeting you. Will you do me the favor of reading this letter?" And then with a slight bow, he turned to the house and disappeared. With the strongest curiosity, Elizabeth opened the letter. It held 2 sheets of paper. It was dated from Rosings at 8 o'clock in the morning and was follows. "Dear Miss Bennet, you have charged me with 2 offenses. The first, my ending the relationship between Mr. Bingley and your sister. The second, my part in Mr. Wickham's misfortunes. I am sorry if anything I say will cause you pain, but I want you to know the truth. I acted as I did for a good reason. Here's what happened with your sister. I hadn't been in Hampshire long before I saw how much Bingley liked your eldest sister. I had often seen him in love before. I watched my friend closely and could see how much he openly cared for her. I also watched Jane. She was open and cheerful and engaging, but she didn't seem particularly interested in Bingley. I was convinced, therefore, that Jane was a lovely girl. Bingley's passion for her was not returned. Since you claim otherwise, I must be in error. If so, I can fully understand why you resent me. I can only say in my defense that Jane's behavior suggested to me that she was not in love with my friend. Thus, I fear he would enter in a marriage without love and desire. But in truth, I had other objections. Your mother's family has no social standing, but there was nothing in comparison to the lack of properness shown by her and your 3 younger sisters. The part which I act now must be explained. I will add that Bingley's sisters agreed with me. I do not think your family's behavior would have prevented the marriage had he not convinced of your sister's indifference to him. Bingley had thought she did care for him, but he greatly relies on my judgment. I convinced him that his passion was not returned. I did not blame myself for having done this. I thought I was doing the right thing. The only thing I do blame myself for is concealing from him that Jane was in London. He knew nothing of her visit there. Please know that I acted out of only concern for my friend. I had no wish to hurt your sister. With respect to Mr. Wickham, I can only tell you his connection with my family. Mr. Wickham is the son of a very respectable man who managed the Pemberley estate for many years. Wickham was my father's godson, and he supported him at school and at Cambridge. He hoped the church would be his profession and intended to provide a living in it. My father died about 5 years ago. His attachment to Wickham was strong, and he wrote in his will he would like me to promote his advancement. If he only took holy orders, I was able to give him a valuable family parish. There was also a legacy of £1,000. Mr. Wickham eventually wrote to me that he decided against taking orders. He did, however, intend to study the law. I must know, he stated, that the interest of £1,000 could not support that decision. I was prepared to help him. We settled between ourselves. I knew him as my father did not be a man without principle. I knew he ought not to be a clergyman. Thus, when Wickham gave up in church, in return, I gave him £3,000. All connection between us was now dissolved. His plan to study law was a pretense. He led a life full of idleness and drunkenness. I heard nothing of him for 3 years. Then, when the clergyman of the parish, which had been earmarked for him before he died, Wickham wrote to me. His circumstances, he assured me, were very bad. He had found the law an unprofitable study and now wanted to be a minister if I would give him the parish in question, as I was aware of my dear father's intentions. You will hardly blame me for refusing to agree with this demand. He resented me and took his rage at me out on my sister. What I am about to tell you, I trust you will hold in utter secrecy. Last summer, he sought out my sister, who is 10 years my junior. She was with her teacher in Ramsgate. He courted my sister, a child of 15. She thought herself in love, and he persuaded her to elope with him. Happily, my sister and I are close, and she told me that she planned to do a day before the elopement. I wrote to Wickham, who immediately left town. I knew that his chief object was my sister's fortune, which is £30,000. I also suspect that he wanted to revenge himself on me. If you need to verify the truth of this letter, please ask Colonel Fitzwilliam. He is one of the executors of my father's will. Yours truly, Fitzwilliam Darcy. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.